Hello and welcome to BBC Learning Zone on BBC Two. Taking us all the way through until 6 o'clock with programmes for schools. And for the next 4 hours, we've got some help for your GCSE exams. At 4, it's bite-sized revision on design and technology, looking at resistant materials, systems and control, electronic products and textiles. And we're starting with design and technology now, focusing on how to design and make products effectively in the graphics and food technology sectors.
Hello there and welcome to GCSE Bite Size, the series designed to give you the edge when sitting your GCSE exams. This is the first of 2 programmes designed to improve your knowledge and confidence for your design and technology GCSE. The programmes work together and you'll need to watch them both for the skills and knowledge you need for your own particular option. This is D&T 1. Once you've recorded the programmes, you can either play them back in bite-sized chunks, or if you really want to go for it, you could sit down and tackle them in one go. The programmes stand alone, so you get loads of really useful information. However, if you combine it with the book, you'd get exercises that go with the programme. And there's more. If you go to our unique online site, you'll find the key content for your syllabus, exam questions to practice and animations to help you with difficult concepts. Whenever there are direct links with the book or the online exercises, you'll see these icons on the screen. Throughout the programme, we'll give you exercises to do. Just keep a pen and paper handy and pause the tape when you see this sign. And finally, watch out for our checklists, which will give you a systematic approach to help you improve your grade. In design and technology, all the focus areas are assessed on 2 fundamental skills, designing and making. You'll be expected to understand and apply both these vital skills, whether you're making a cake, building an electronic circuit, or answering a question on health and safety in your exam. Your coursework accounts for the largest chunk of the marks, 60%, and your mark depends on how well you can design and make a product. A written exam makes up the rest of the marks, and you'll be tested on your knowledge and understanding of the designing and making process. This first programme will start by taking you through the processes you need to design and make any product effectively. You need these skills no matter what option you're studying. The second part of the programme will address the specific knowledge and understanding needed for the focus areas graphic products and food technology. Programme 2 will go on to look at the focus areas resistant materials, electronic products and systems and control, and textile technology. The programmes work together and you'll gain marks if you can show a broad awareness of all the focus areas. So whichever focus area you're studying, keep watching, because our case studies offer real-life solutions to design challenges. Here's a taste of what's coming up. So let's get going. You might know a lot about your chosen focus area, but you must combine that knowledge with solid understanding of the designing and making process. And whether it's a souffle or a bicycle, this process stays the same. The key to the first part of the process is to draw up a detailed brief and specification. When you set about deciding on a brief for your coursework project, the real marks to be won are when you design to a genuine need. Your brief is your statement of intent, what you aim to do. It should be concise and set the scene, and it should never describe the outcome. Your specification goes on to describe all the things that the final product must be able to do or be. In your exam, you're often asked to think about considerations. For your specification, you should consider the context, where and how will the product be used, and how will this affect the materials you select. The primary function, how will it work and why. Secondary functions, such as quality, reliability, and safety. And aesthetics, such as size and shape, as well as general styling like the feel, colour, or texture. And finally, the scale of production. There are 4 types. One-off, when items are individually produced. Batch production, when a small number of identical items are made. Repetitive batch, where production runs are repeated as needed, like seasonal products. And continuous mass production, when thousands of products are made all year round. Have a look at this case study and first identify the genuine need that designer Trevor Bayliss catered for. Then write a design brief and specification for the Clockwork Radio.
The Clockwork Radio only exists because its inventor happened to watch a television programme about Africa.
To be honest, I could have been watching Come Dancing, if you understand me, and not that programme about the spread of AIDS. And one of the things about being an inventor is that you always pick up on things, like on the word need. When somebody says there's a need for something, then generally speaking, I get excited.
The epidemic will spread rapidly across the developing world and beyond.
I feel that we've got to start educating people on HIV and AIDS through radio. But there's problems. In that, A, there's no electricity, B, that the batteries are not always available for those people in country areas, even in the towns.
First thing I did was to go to my little studio, which is at the back of the house. I knew that an electric motor could be used in reverse as a generator. So I found a very small motor, which I then put into a hand brace. And then I was able to hitch up 2 wires from that motor to the back of a very cheap transistor radio. And then by turning the handle, I had the first bark of sound from a radio. And so that, if you like, was my eureka moment. I suppose it took 3 or 4 months playing around with different types of springs and gears and so on, until I reached the point where I was able to put this radio together. It's a box which contains a fairly powerful spring, and then there's a gearbox that spring drives, and the gearbox then in turn drives a small generator which feeds electricity to this tiny radio. And to make it work, you simply wind the key, and now you'll see it slowly unwinds. If I put the radio on, you see it produces that volume of sound. And there you have your Clockwork Radio.
So how did you get on? Well, the design brief was simply to design and make a radio that doesn't need battery power, that's suitable for use in an alternative technology environment. Your specification should have included the following. The radio needs to be easily used across Africa by all age groups, so the winding mechanism must be easy to understand and not too difficult to wind. It must be durable, as it has a long-term educational role, and must also be cheap and easy to repair. It needs to be easy to carry and be a well-styled, attractive product. And as it's for domestic use, it can't be too expensive. Production would have to be a repetitive batch, so that supply doesn't overshoot demand. And once it's produced, it must be light enough to be exported cheaply. It's a good idea to present your specification as a list. This is clear and provides a good checklist to make sure you've covered everything when you're developing your ideas.
Now my little tip is to do as many past papers as you can. When I was sitting my exams, I did as many as I could, and trust me, it's the best way to prepare.
Once you've decided on your brief and drawn up your specification, the next step is to generate a wide range of initial design solutions. Whether you're designing something for your coursework or in your exam, a key to success is to generate an extensive range of initial ideas. This can be daunting, but a good starting point is to evaluate other similar products. This is how the team of designers in the next clip began to work, as they developed a prototype for a travel pack to contain Persil fabric wash liquid. While you're watching, write down how they use research to help them generate ideas, and also pay attention to the way in which they communicate their ideas.
Well, I think at this stage we should try and keep the design development as wide as we possibly can, and the consumers, I think, very quickly will sift out the key points tonight.
If we look at the laundry part, the washing part of it, then we have a liquid or a powder alternative, and there's pluses and minuses to those.
Security of opening and closing is vital, and you really look at things with a screw top or something that's not just a flip or is going to leak in transit. And that's a really important factor when making your purchase decision. Also, the strength of the actual pack itself. So if you're going to squash things on top of it, it's not just the closing; it's the whole pack has to feel when you pick it up. I mean, that I would feel happy taking.
Keep both products in bottles for the moment. All right. And just go through this idea. You know, we talked about two different closures. Yeah. And expose the closures.
But one's going to be a flip top.
Yeah, so do it as a flip top, and one's going to be a screw cap. And you can put some sort of device on the top. We've got two tubes. Yeah. And what we really have to work through is how do you elevate the presentation of a tube, you know, rather than just a sort of round body, closed seal. Yeah. How do you collate them without just seeing as, you know, here's a multi-buy, two tubes. Let's just make two tubes work better. Yeah.
We could have a flip top with some locking device on. So we're giving the flip top some added value and expressing all these things about security and it not opening any suitcase. So you could have a flip top that then
Locked over.
has got another live hinge in it that locks over. Okay, so looks like the tube is a great idea, the sachet is a great idea, and is it the one at the bottom?
Yes, well, the
bottle. On the bottle. So we've got our three front runners, which we'll spend some time working out.
Soap and washing up. Let's come back to travel wash. Yeah. Okay. Got some things here which I'd like to show you, some ideas.
She's going for it. Here we go.
Let me just talk you through the first one. It's two tubes which are clipped together or could be snapped apart. I can't understand why you'd want to carry a bouquet with you. Yeah. Why you wouldn't just take the sachets out and spread them around your cave.
If I bought it, say a week before we went away, I'd put that in a bag and forget it was there. I wouldn't be bothered in doing it and taking all the sachets out.
There's another diagram. That's just showing you again this plastic tray.
Putting the actual pack to show them as well.
Yeah.
that was useful. They thought it was. They thought that was novel, I think, being able to click that in to make a pack like that. I'm not sure they thought it was useful, but I thought it was novel.
It will actually do that. Pack them together and that's it for a day.
So moving on to the next one, number 3 was the bottle.
Doesn't look as attractive. It does look attractive. What's attractive about it? It looks bulky.
Chunky looking.
Bulky.
Yeah.
It is chunky, yeah.
It is chunky.
Yeah.
The other's much nicer.
The fact that we picked up some of the style, the branding style, was actually a negative because they said, well, I don't want you to worry about the brand, I want you to worry about my suitcase.
I expected this to end up flat eventually, but it's still hanging upside down, so just not trying to put you off that design, I'm just saying it's very searching and we're actually building a problem into the design.
It's going to make the fit of the cap and the bottle much more crucial.
You'll have to fight for this hanging upside down and tell me all the advantages of having it.
Further on down the line, is this really going to stop it? Do you need to get around it now?
There are ways of getting around it, but we need to bear it in mind all the way through. There is a potential problem waiting to come out and bite us there.
Did you notice how they developed their initial ideas? Well, first, they compared and analysed other products, considering their pros and cons. Then they conducted market research to find out the needs of consumers. Using this research, they produced concept drawings and models and got consumers to evaluate them. Then they got advice from manufacturers on the best production processes. And finally, they considered the materials, function and performance of the product. And what did you notice about how they communicated their ideas? Well, they mostly conveyed them graphically with drawings and notes. You'll need to use sketches with annotations yourself. Use them to show the examiner how you think products satisfy their design specification. Now, have a go on your own with this sample exam question. Using annotated sketches, suggest 3 ideas for a shower gel container. Your design would need to be produced industrially, so remember to include information about appropriate materials and construction processes. So, what did you come up with? Well, here are our ideas. Always remember to suggest specific materials, such as polyethylene, rather than just plastic. And check out the graphic products section to brush up on those drawing techniques you'll need for your working drawings. So what's next? Well, once you've done your research, the next stage is to develop your final design solution. It took Trevor Bayliss 3 months to develop his clockwork radio into a prototype. But this wasn't the end of the story. Watch the rest of this clip on how the radio was researched and developed into a final product, and make a note of the key stages in the process.
Next stop, Africa, where Trevor believed his invention was needed. The whole idea was greeted enthusiastically by Chris Stain's South African business partner, Rory Steer.
That is the midpoint. It was immediately apparent. He didn't even question what I'd said. He said, this is fantastic. This is for Africa.
Out on the road, Chris and Rory decided to find out just what the customer would want from a clockwork radio. So, with a local guide, they set off to do some market research.
You see, we think in a year, somebody will spend 120 rand on batteries in 1 year. If they buy a battery every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, it costs you 120 rand. So in 1 year, it's very, very expensive. So if you take a normal FM radio which costs, say, 50 rand, then that plus 1 year's batteries cost you 170 rand.
Okay, I think it's a good idea about the bigger radio.
A bigger one?
The bigger the radio, the better it sounds.
Ah, okay. So this is a wind-up radio that's been invented by a guy in the UK. It doesn't need any batteries at all.
We in South Africa are very fond of the radios.
Now the idea is that you wind it for about 30 seconds and it plays for about an hour. Do you think it's enough for one wind? You wind it up.
So you have to rewind it
Every hour you have to wind it again. What do you think?
You can stretch it for about 2 hours. It would be more.
We can make it play for as long as people want, but it makes the radio more expensive because it has to have a bigger spring in. And if it becomes more expensive, then they say, no, I'd rather buy the one with the batteries. So it's like a choice between the two. But it won't need a battery.
I like it, but it doesn't need batteries. This is just to show you the principle of it.
No electricity, nothing.
It doesn't use any battery, anything.
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea.
Oh, fabulous. That's very nice.
That's very nice.
Yeah, that's nice. We don't need batteries, we don't need electricity. That's super.
Save electricity.
I like it. I like it.
Bigger, smaller? No, I would like it as big as this.
But bigger?
A big one. Bigger, a little bit bigger. I like it to be loud.
Not too loud.
Loud. You can sell it to 150 because you're not using the battery.
To pay 199 rand for...
I will buy a radio like this.
You people with all these inventions, it's good. I like modern science. Thank you.
What do you think? Any interest?
Batteries are such an issue in their lives that they definitely understood the benefits of the wind-up technology against having to purchase batteries on an ongoing basis.
The other good news was the size. Did you see the size and the weight? The bigger and the heavier it is, the more they value the product. In fact, the better price we could get if we make it bigger and heavier. Yeah. Whereas I thought we had a problem with trying to miniaturize the thing. What we're going to have to do is make it big, heavy, very robust, and be able to play very loud. Trevor's original idea played for about 14 minutes with a 2-minute wind, and it clearly wasn't a product. To take it from there all the way through to being a product was incredibly hard, and every single element of the prototype had to be improved and examined and measured, and then put into a manufacturable form so we could actually make it into a product, and that was incredibly difficult.
It was impossible to make the radio louder. The criteria they'd been given were far too strict. Every time the radio was turned up, the sound distorted. There was simply not enough power coming out of the generator to drive the electronics properly.
In order to solve the problem, we decided we'd move the goalposts. The first thing we did was the spring we had asked them to utilize. We threw that out of the program, and we replaced it with a spring twice that size, giving us twice the amount of energy.
To get that energy to the generator, though, you need a gearbox. Friction is the enemy here. The more friction there is, the less energy from the coil spring gets through to the generator. Friction occurs in the bearings at the end of the axles, so to reduce it, they simply cut down the number of bearings and axles. They tried out this design, and it worked.
Without these scientists and engineers, it simply wouldn't have happened. Finding somebody to be enthusiastic about what potentially is a fairly cranky idea was quite unique. They were able to bring together all the elements that we needed, the right spring people, the gear people, the plastics people, the radio people, and keep the momentum going.
By now, Chris and his team had changed the design of Trevor's prototype radio considerably.
Hey! This is it!
Oh, look. Hey, look at this. As you saw, they used the prototype to research into the needs of the consumer. They looked at the size, price, controls, volume, winding time, and the length of play. From this they concluded that the final product had to be big, heavy, very robust, and able to play very loud. Then they began to develop the product. But did you notice how different the final clockwork radio was compared to the prototype? This is because when you're developing your final solution, you have to keep referring back to the specification and adapting it according to your research findings. That's exactly what the designers did. They adapted the specification to include the results of the research, which found that a bigger, louder radio was needed than they'd originally planned. Then they looked at the prototype to see how the improved specification could be realized. They then modeled and tested several ideas until they produced a manufacturable product that met the needs of the improved design specification.
If you record yourself onto tape, you can listen to your notes as you're falling asleep. Believe it or not, when you wake up in the morning, you can actually remember things.
So once you have your final design solution, you're ready to plan how it's actually going to be made. This is a crucial part of the design and making process, and you'll need to do this well to ensure a good grade. So where do you start? Well, first, you have to select the materials and components. Then think about how they're going to be treated, processed and assembled. This allows you to decide on the techniques, tools and machinery you require. This is where your knowledge and understanding of your chosen focus area is vital. An important point to consider when selecting your materials and tools is the ergonomics of the design. This is the human factor, the interaction between the user and the product. And to do this, designers often use something called anthropometric data. Now take a look at this. This is the Dyson vacuum cleaner. As you watch the clip, make notes on how James Dyson carefully selects the components, considering the ergonomics and aesthetics of his design.
Instead of a bag, these yellow plastic cones help collect the dust in the new cleaner. When inside the cleaner, their unique shape forces the air which passes over them into a spinning cyclone. It's this cyclone effect which separates the dust from the air. This is not a new idea. It is already used on a much larger scale in paint shops and sawmills.
And I thought, hey, this is what a vacuum cleaner needs. But the one in my factory is 35 foot high. Will it work if I miniaturize it down to vacuum cleaner size? So I raced home and got one of these vacuum cleaners, which in those days, well, some of them still do, I suppose, have one of these things, which is the same as the paper bag, really. It's performing exactly the same function, but it's made of cloth instead of paper. I'll take that off, and I'll replace the bag with a nice cardboard and gaffer tape cyclone, which I knocked up in half an hour. And as you can see, I put a simple bit of hose, swimming pool hose that I had lying around, and connected it in. And so the dirty air comes up here, enters the cyclone, spirals round, the dust collects in this pot at the bottom, and the clean air comes out of this chimney at the top. And so I fired it up and vacuumed the home, and I didn't see much coming out of here, and it was doing a fantastic cleaning job. And I cleaned about 6 rooms, and throughout each of the 6 rooms it was giving me maximum suction. There was masses of air shooting out of here. So I thought, this is a wonderful solution to the problem of vacuuming. So here I was at home in my little workshop, which was really nothing more than a table. I had no power tools, nothing. I started developing cyclones for use in vacuum cleaners. 5,500 prototypes later, and 2 years later, I had it embodied in really my first working prototype vacuum cleaner, which looked something like this. And obviously it was an upright vacuum cleaner, and here's the handle that you used it by. But it occurred to me, you know, why can't upright vacuum cleaners have hoses like cylinder vacuum cleaners? So then you've got a cylinder vacuum cleaner and an upright vacuum cleaner in one. And so I started putting bits of hose on so that when you went from the upright vacuum cleaner, the upright vacuum cleaner operation to the upright position, so then the suction transferred to the hose. So effectively I had this looks rather clumsy, but no, actually it went in the other end. I had a vacuum cleaner that looked something like this. And so when you went to the upright position, you could take the wand out, and you had instantly what looks like a cylinder vacuum cleaner for doing the stairs and the corners and so on. But the trouble with that was that when I was doing this tended to pull the machine over like that, so it's rather unstable. And also it's a bit ungainly, isn't it, having this hose sort of hanging out the back here. So one day I was fiddling around a bit and said, well, I don't want it coming out of there. What I really want is there's a convenient place. The hose should come off the bottom of the machine so that, well, it would actually follow you around like a dog and not fall over. But then, of course, I had nowhere to put my pipe handle. So I then started fiddling about and noticed that the pipe went down the inside of the hose rather nicely, telescoped inside it nicely like that. So that became a much neater thing altogether. And instant and telescopic, wonderful. But it didn't reach very far, wouldn't go up the flight of stairs. So I went back to the vacuum cleaner shop, and round the back he had actually a type of hose that had gone out of production, a stretch hose. And I thought, that's going to really make this thing good.
The hoses, like every other feature on the new model, have been carefully developed over many stages, from the first ideas right through to the final production model.
Many more prototypes later, we had the model that we actually went into production with. And as you can see, there's quite a change from that to this, but that was the result of many thousands more prototypes. There's an enormous amount of designing, and the designing is done by quite a large team. We probably had 10 designers working on this. Every little thing has to be thought about, carefully tested, and carefully examined. For example, the handle for this bin. We need a handle for the bin, but it mustn't be too big a handle, because we don't want to encourage people, for example, to carry the machine by that handle, because it's not very sensible. We put a nice big handle on the top there, in the right centre of gravity point, and just the right height for people to carry. So we wanted to encourage people to carry it by that handle, not by this handle. So that's why it's a handle that's adequate for the bin, but not adequate for the whole vacuum cleaner. So you have to think of design very carefully in those terms. And for example, we've highlighted the important bits in yellow, the bits you press to clear the bin, the bit you turn, you can see that, the bit you turn to release the cable, the bit you press to release the wand, and the bit you hold when you use the wand. They're all yellow, highlighting them as a point which you have to hold.
The cleaner is now a consumer product, but once it was just an idea. Its development involved the combination of a variety of skills and expertise. Deciding how to manage these different inputs was an important part of the design process.
As you saw, James Dyson carefully chose each component, considering how the user would interact with the product. He made the bin handle small compared to the cleaner handle. used a stretchable hose attached to the base so it would reach further more safely, and highlighted the key features in yellow. These enable the user to operate the product safely and effectively. So, once you've identified your materials and equipment, you need to work out a production schedule, which is something lots of people don't plan properly and as a result lose marks. You need to identify the sequence of tasks, the time required for each task, and details of all the materials, equipment and processes needed. You also need to consider health and safety issues and carry out risk and hazard assessments. Quality assurance is something you need to think about as well. These are the procedures that are built into the production process to ensure that an agreed standard of quality is achieved. Finally, do think about quality control. This means regular checks to ensure the products all reach the desired quality and conform to British standards. If they fail, they need to be rejected. Make sure you understand the difference between quality assurance and quality control. So, have a go on your own. Rewind the previous clip and try to spot the stages in the production process of the Dyson vacuum cleaner. How would these translate into a production schedule? Your answer should have included the following considerations. Firstly, stock control. What components are needed? How will they be stored and assembled and replaced? Quality control is also important here. During the assembly processes, there should be regular checks to make sure the right standard is achieved. And don't forget health and safety. Risk and hazard assessment need to take place to ensure employees have safe working conditions. You'll be expected to provide flowcharts in your project to show the stages of production.
To make revising more interesting, what you should do is reward yourself after you think you've done enough. For example, you could have a bit of chocolate, or you could go out with your friends, or ring them, or walk the dog, or whatever takes your fancy.
Producing your end product successfully isn't the end of the story. There's one final stage to the process. You still need to evaluate the product. Product evaluation isn't just something you do at the end of your project. You have to evaluate at every stage of the process. You also have to be able to evaluate everyday product design in your exam. When you analyse any product, the key is to evaluate it against its brief and specification. How well has it met its aims? And how well does it do its job? Suggest modifications and improvements where you can, and ideally test the product in its intended setting to see how it performs. And try to be objective, don't let your personal taste sway you. Take a look at this next sequence, which shows how the Radox shower gel container was redesigned. Watch the clip and note how the product developer analyses the improvement of the design, and then answer the following question. What were the problems with the old Radox shower gel container, and what are the advantages of the new one? Who benefits from each improvement, and why?
These green bottles, about to be filled with shower gel, have been newly redesigned to help keep the package a brand leader.
In the case of the old pack, because there wasn't enough force when it's stretched back out to its original shape, we ended up with the pack having the air sucked out of it as you pump the gel. So literally, as you do that, product and air comes out, but air doesn't come back in. And you end up eventually, right at the end of it, with perhaps this much gel left in it. The whole thing is flat like a tube of toothpaste, and it was very, very difficult to get the last, I don't know, inch or so out of this pack. If we could allow the air to come back in through having these faces spring back out, then you could use the air like a piston to push the remaining gel out, and that is the principle behind the new pack. So with this one, I mean, you can already see with that one I've squeezed it once and we've already got a huge great dent in it. With this one, if I squeeze it, you find it pops back quite well despite the valve trying to stop it. Another feature that we made that will be invisible, which is purely for our production people, was that we've moved the neck. This is the old pack and the neck is off centre because of the valve on the previous cap. This one was off centre. We've made a couple of improvements to both cap and bottle to generally help them out and give us additional benefits. On the new pack, we've made the neck very much bigger than the old one. If you see them side by side, it's quite a huge difference, and it's centred. The logic for that is that the gel that we fill is quite thick, and when they're filling at the kind of speeds that we fill at, the gel is literally under pressure, squirted in through this hole. So the wider the hole, the more gel they can get in the speed, and if it's in the centre, it makes it easier to design the machinery just to centre the bottle up and whoosh, in you go. The old cap was just a loose, floppy hinge. It wasn't particularly friendly for elderly people with arthritic hands, because some of them were quite difficult to get open, to get your finger under it and push it. The criticism that we saw in a trade magazine was that when it's hanging like that, unless you've spotted that there's a latch to get it right back out the way, it hangs in the way of the valve, and you end up dribbling gel all over it and you end up with a right mess. You have to literally rinse it under the tap. With the new one, we decided to first of all change the opening front to back to go with the centred neck, but also to put a live hinge on it so it opens with a spring, so that hangs well and truly out the way and you haven't got that problem. What I'm doing is just starting to check off some of the outer dimensions, the easier dimensions to measure of the actual mouldings versus the drawing that we did 3 to 4 months ago. The mould has been manufactured to these dimensions. The plastic that flows into it is like any moulding. It does subtly distort and subtly shrink as it comes out the mould and cools down. We know, for example, that between clear and coloured caps, the rate at which the plastic shrinks as it comes out the mould is subtly different. What we've got on the newer cap, unlike its predecessor, is we put a backup seal in so that even if a 1 in a million chance that the valve was somehow damaged or the valve was even missing, say a freak, it came through the machine without getting the valve fitted, there's still a sealing ring on the inside of this lid and on the corresponding surface of the body, so that when it's on the actual bottle and you seal it, theoretically, if I'm right, when I squeeze this, it'll pop open with a bang because the air will compress and suddenly burst the cap open. If I'm wrong, it'll just go and we'll find out the hard way, so let's give it a go. There you go, perfect. I don't know if you can hear that, but what it sounds to me like is that we've actually cracked the panelling problem. There's a little ticking, I don't know if you can hear that, but what that is air in little bubbles sucking back into the bottle. So each time I squeeze, you can hear the air popping back. And it's the valve basically popping in and out is what you can hear, but that is really good news. We designed a spring on the front of the bottle that would do that would pull the bottle back into shape, pull air in, and then as the bottle becomes lower and lower on its contents, the air pushes the shower gel out towards the bottom and you get the whole lot out. So just final test. What's it like dispensing the gel? Well, the looks of it pretty good. The gel is literally scissored as the rubber valve closes so that it doesn't string. If you ever tried this stuff, if you poured it like I'll show you from the bottle without a valve, you're forever waiting for it to break. It strings and strings and strings. And what the actual valve does is just chops it neatly as you let go. The valve relaxes back, closes and snips the gel.
So how did you get on? Well, you should have noticed these points. The old container didn't take into account the action of air and gel being squeezed from the container together. The bottle became compressed and gel remained stuck inside. The new bottle was designed to pop back into shape to allow air back in, to push all the gel out. This benefits the consumer. The old bottle had an off-centre neck. This was difficult for the manufacturers to fill efficiently. The new larger centred neck allowed a faster injection of gel and more easily designed machinery. This was a benefit for the manufacturers, as they could produce the finished product more quickly. The original loose floppy hinge was difficult for some people to open, and then once open, it often hung down, getting covered in gel. The new bottle had a simpler front to back flap with live hinge which automatically hangs down out of the way. Users would benefit from increased ease of use. And finally, the new container had an extra sealing ring as backup for the valve, and this made it more secure for the consumer. So you should evaluate your products in terms of how well they fulfill the specification, how well the materials have been used, the accuracy of manufacture, the aesthetics such as the appearance, taste, smell or feel, how well it performs its intended function called fitness for purpose, the ergonomics, is it comfortable and safe to use, and finally, have the legal requirements such as health and safety and British standards been met. So, there you have it. Here's our first checklist to recap. When you set about designing and making a product, try and choose a genuine need and write a clear and concise design brief. Research and analyse your brief so that you can draw up a detailed specification with clear-cut objectives. To have the best chance of success, generate a wide range of initial ideas. Research and critically analyse your ideas according to their fitness for purpose so that you can identify the ones you'll develop further. Develop your product by drawing, modelling and testing these ideas. Evaluate your ideas and choose the best one for development. Select the most appropriate materials, techniques, tools and equipment. Draw up an accurate production schedule. Make your product. Finally, evaluate your product.
If you don't do as well in a subject in the exam as you thought you were going to do, don't give up on it. If you really love something, keep going at it. I failed my history exam, but subsequently went on to do it at college. So keep going. If you like the subject, eventually you will do well in it. Don't be put off.
That's the end of our designing and making section. Remember to check out our website for more information and exercises. So let's move on to the focus areas. And first, an area you'll need to be aware of: graphic products. Whatever your focus area, you need to demonstrate an ability to communicate your ideas through graphics. So check this section out. Students studying graphic products will need to show their ability to design and make products in a variety of graphic materials. They're often made of paper and card, but they can be plastic, laminates, or even aluminium foil. The course will be assessed through coursework and in a final examination. As good design is the key to successful graphic products, we'll look at this in detail, but drawing skills are also crucial. So, we'll focus on these skills and also find out about manufacturing graphic products, as well as graphic mechanisms and advertising. This is an award-winning design for a very common graphic product, the poster. While you're watching, try to identify the key to good poster design.
Here, what they're talking about is lost property. But I think they do it in a really simple little way. So they've got the dotted line, you lost your ring, if you pardon the expression, you lost your teddy bear.
Yeah.
And it says, quite clearly, if you've lost something, ring up this number. So it takes you in. I mean, I think that's a powerful image, don't you?
Yeah.
So the strikingly simple posters for southeastern trains were the judges' first choice for the shortlist. There are currently 20 posters in the series covering topics from leaves on the line to minding the gap.
Previously in the railways, certainly, if they had a poster about lost property or don't go on the track, then it would look a bit like a sort of a scary charity ad or something. And what we wanted to do was do something, kind of return to older values, if you like, and do something very simple and very straightforward that people would understand like that. And also, if they were sitting on the train, we were trying to design them so you could read them from the train and still understand them. These are two of the first that they asked us to do, and they asked us to do lost property.
They've got that kind of hand-drawn quality. Why did you choose that and not something more sophisticated?
Well, we didn't want them to look scary or over-designed, so what we draw them very, very small, and then we blew them up massive, and the ones that worked really well took about half an hour to do, if that. What we found was that they started to ask us to do more serious things, and these are two quite serious posters, but they're couched in quite a humorous way. There's a very scary thing that can happen. Certain freight trains can come through a station, and it can blow pushchairs into the air. So mothers might find that their pushchair's going up over their heads.
How terrifying!
Well, it is terrifying, and we said, oh, we can't do a poster of that, because, of course, no mothers would come on station with their babies anymore. So we did a poster that shows a man losing his wig. And so people would look at this and go, oh, that's funny. And then they would read the copy, and they'd see there's a point here about pushchairs, even wigs being thrown into the air.
You should have spotted that the key to good poster design is about keeping it simple, presenting information clearly and making it quick and easy to read. Make sure you use a good mixture of images, text and colour.